For everyone who solves crime from their couch, knows more about forensics than their own job, and has trust issues with small-town sheriffs, Amazon Music's millions of podcast episodes are calling. Just download the Amazon Music app and start listening to your favorite true crime podcasts ad-free. Included with Prime.
Hi, I'm Stephanie J. Block.
And I'm Mary Lee Fairbanks. Welcome to Stages Podcast,
where we're bringing creation and connection to center stage. Okay. You are the first to be this early.
I'm a geek. I'm never late. My kids busted me years ago when we were driving somewhere, and they were like, we just figured it. They were like in middle school and younger. They said, we just figured out 15 minutes early is late for you. And I was like, yep.
Today, we're going to be speaking to Sakina Jaffrey. I met Sakina years ago on set. This sounds very fancy, but we were on the set of House of Cards. It was the first time I was visiting my husband on the set. I remember being so preoccupied with what I should look like because I wanted to be up to snuff. And I'm sure I came off pretty uncomfortable until this little amazing creature, all I can call her, is this beautiful creature who literally came up to below my breasts and with all her force just said, "Oh, you're Sebastian's wife." And it was an embrace and it was a welcoming like I was not expecting. And that is Sakina. It's never quite what you're expecting. And it's so joyous and it fills the entire space. She does have quite a long resume, an interesting life, but I think you will find that she seems to always be much more interested in the person that she's sitting with. We are very grateful to have her here. I'm very excited to speak with her. Please welcome to Stages Podcast, Sakina Jaffrey. Sakina Jaffrey to stage, Sakina Jaffrey to stage. Hi, Sakina. Welcome. We're so happy you're here. So this is a little bit what our podcast is about. Things that we have learned from our art form that then always enhance the way we walk through the world, in any stage of our life.
Yeah. And in fact, when I was thinking about this podcast and thinking about Crossroads, and I was thinking, actually, most of I don't know if they've been crossroads because they're just like a certain point of evolution for me. And most of it comes from my parents coming in the 1950s, Indian parents, to be actors in New York. And I think my whole sort of trajectory was based on that, but in a very complicated way. And that was that they couldn't find work back then, right? So my mother had gone to Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts. My father had studied, and then he went to Catholic University on a Fulbright or something. So they came here full of all this expectations and, thinking I can be Brando, I can be all these things. And there wasn't really a place for them. So they had 3 kids, and then they ended up getting divorced. And when I was 2, my sister was 4, my other sister was 5. My mother made the decision, since my father had left, to send us back to India because she didn't know how to cope. So what happened then was we literally, 3 little girls got sent on a plane alone to India. Wow. So we landed up in a foreign country. We were taken in by my aunt and uncle. My mother didn't come with us. And then when we came back to the States, my mother had been acting that time. She was in these Merchant Ivy films. She won Best Actress for Berlin at the Berlin Film Festival. And my father had left to go to England. But we came back to mother, I didn't know, new stepfather, who was a violinist, first black violinist in the Philharmonic. We were told that we were going to be living in a skyscraper. So I had no idea what that meant. Like it literally would scrape the sky. I had no idea. So this sort of new city, new world. And I think everything that happened to me after that point was based on that. Because I think I felt like I kept my family together by being this entertainer, by being the clown, because everything was so precarious, because both of my parents were sort of pioneers pursuing, my mother acting initially, and then she became a cookbook writer, and my father in the Philharmonic. So there was this whole sort of life that happened, which wasn't traumatic, clearly, but I think I've spent so much time running away from acting. There were moments where I kind of realized that, and I tried to figure out what was going on with me, because clearly I was an actor, and then I was a dancer, and I danced with Jaffrey when I was a kid. I played all these characters at home to process the world, really, both to entertain, but also to process, because my sisters and I were like three skinny little hairy Indian girls who were like sort of just gone from this little life we had in Delhi to Greenwich Village, New York City, right? So I think what ended up happening is when I was in high school, a family friend of ours, Wally Shawn, had this play. My mother said she plays this character all the time. So I auditioned for it. Before I think I'd just gotten into college, I had a play, I had an equity card, I had all this stuff. It was amazing, but I kept on thinking, but I'm not going to act, because it was a traumatic part of acting, but it had taken both my parents away. Mm-hmm. So when I went to college, I studied everything but acting. I mean, I think I took like a set design class, but I didn't act. And I studied Chinese. I went to live in Taiwan for my junior year, and I came back afterwards, and I still tried not to be an actor. I tried everything not to be an actor. And then I realized, who am I? And it's so different than most people who are like, I just have to be an actor. I just have to be an actor. But one of the things I thought was a crossroad for me was that when I finally realized I got to do this because it's what I love, and it's how I see the world, because I look at people and I study people, and if I meet anybody, I will be the person to ask 100 questions and find out so much about them, like we are, right? Actors do that. And then I have all that in my head. I have all that in my heart, everybody's stories. So it's sort of how I go through life. But then when I decided I'm going to be an actor, and I forced myself to study, because I had been a dancer. And as a dancer, I think I loved the control I had. My hair was in a tight bun. The extension was at a certain point. And there was a sort of right and wrong bodily in terms of what you do. And then there's the calming balm of classical music. So all of it helped me, but not really as a performer. So I didn't start acting till I studied for 2 years. I didn't get into graduate school. So I did sort of a program for myself. But then when I started auditioning, I projected my whole history onto the casting people and the people in that room. So when I was in there, I kept on having sort of like the doomsday scenario, and the stakes of getting rejected were so high, because it meant, if they reject me, this is so much psychology just coming in really quickly, what I'm explaining to you. If they reject me, then I'm going to be blown up into the universe, maybe back to India. Like I'm just going to be thrown into some other universe. So I would say a crossroads was when I realized that. When I realized, it's not about that at all. It's about the little me who was playing and channeling different characters who I felt were part of me, and who I felt I understood, and who maybe understood me more. So that was like a big thing in my life, to just come to that realization.
Can I ask, how long were you separated from your mom? So you and your sisters are sent back to India. 2 till 5 for 3 years. Those are really formative years.
Yeah, very formative. And I think there were all kinds of things that happened. I had an aunt who had, they thought she had cancer. She had a leg removed. So she had a wooden leg. And when I learned to walk with a limp, because I just was following her.
You were following her gait.
Yeah. Gosh. And then there was another moment where I think there was all the stuff that happened, which, you just process later on in life, and you just separate. And I hope that anybody listening to this can, either through therapy or whatever way you can, sort of separate, figure out what the fear is as you're trying to move forward. So I think for so many years of my life, I've just been so afraid of just doing the acting thing. And I wanted kids so badly. And I remember there was a movie that came up that a film I was helping sort of develop, and it got postponed. And there was a moment where I had to make a choice about whether I was going to keep trying to get pregnant or stop, because this movie, I'm a big part movie. And I thought, oh my God, it is, would I rather have a child or a film? And then it was very clear. But I did have a really weird thing happen. I was in my 20s. I got an audition for a film, Canada, in Toronto, an Indian film by this sort of hot shit young Indian director. And I got cast, and it was like late female lead. And I was so psyched. First of all, let me just say, so my father, I didn't know. He left when I was 2. I didn't remember him, but he was an actor. And once he became a big actor in England, he had the first Indian sitcom in England called Tandoori Nights. He would send for our birthdays a glossy black and white headshot of himself.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so he becomes famous. Fame and all that stuff has really been complicated for me. And also he's an amazing actor. I mean, quite a genius actor, also a drinker, but an actor also. So I saw him on screen more than I did in real life. So cut to my 20s, I get this part. And the director said, so that we have 2 other actors. One is Roshan Seth, who is a friend of my mother's from years ago, and he'd be playing your father. And then Sakina Jaffrey, do you know him? And I thought, I was like, well, my mother knew him biblically years ago. But so I said, yeah, actually, he's my father. He said, oh. And he said, I asked him if he knew any young Indian actors who could play. And I was like, and let me guess, no mention. Anyway. So I got the part and I had to decide, okay, I'm going to do this. And then in the end, his contract got swapped and he ended up playing all the male leads in the film, including my father.
Oh my word.
So that was
you're sharing scenes with him. You're interacting with him in this way.
Completely. As father and daughter.
So did you just compartmentalize who he was to you in real life? Or did you just look at him as this sort of strange person anyway? Because at this juncture, all you really share is a last name. Like, what did that feel like?
And some glossy headshots.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, Oshevitz. I think secretly I had a desire that maybe we would get to know each other a little bit. But the drinking kind of made that a little bit complicated.
Were you hoping that he would be proud of you or say, oh my gosh, you're an incredible actress? Were you looking for that sort of validation?
I think I had been warned that would never come, that there's a narcissism involved, that would not be the case. I mean, I'd been raised by a stepfather. So it's not like I was looking for a father figure. Mm-hmm. I guess I was hoping he'd find me interesting. Maybe.
And did that happen? Was there some sort of relationship formed during that
No, not really.
Filming?
No. And I think I really had to act. I did act those scenes.
Were you able to watch the film once it was completed?
I was. In fact, I didn't mind the other scenes. The scenes with him were sort of painful to watch. Very, very painful. And yet he's a really good actor, but a very specific kind of actor. Mm-hmm. Like walk backwards out of a scene. So the camera. But genius. I've never seen somebody seduce the camera like that. And the way he handles language. And I had a very different acting style. I have a very American, internal, have it be real. And yet there was a complete, revelation for me to wow, that's just as good as what that, you put that on and you do have your voice go up at this point and you walk, the camera stays on you and you turn this, it all works in a way.
It's a formula that works for him. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I think, so just that complication of having a very conflicted relationship with fame and being able to figure out why I needed to be an actor in the positive sense rather than the negative sense.
Well, you came onto my radar with a really special, but, commercial film. It was Raising Helen. And I know it laughs. It was what was it? It was early 2000. And I'm watching for Kate Hudson, cause she's just adorable and I love her outfits and I love the idea. I mean, I'm just in that headspace,
fangirl,
right?
Yeah.
And then this firecracker neighbor comes into the screen, honestly, with a baseball bat. And you made such an impact. And I didn't know who you were personally, or I was not aware of your career, nor am I one to really follow an actor's career per se. I just remember moments and nuggets of time. And that is truly, if you ask me what the film was about, Sakina, I'd be like, well, I remember there, Kate Hudson, her sister died. She takes the children. They go back to the New York apartment and shenanigans ensue. And then there's this little mighty force of a neighbor. She's got gravitas. I mean, and when I was writing down words, sometimes I write questions down to prepare for interviews, but a lot of the times it's just thoughts and words. And literally for you, Beneath is Spitfire, native New Yorker, joyous, diminutive but powerful, emotionally evolved. And I also wrote a deliberate life.
Well, I so appreciate those words because I always felt that was the true me, all those things, that I mostly was more comedy than drama. And I always feel as if, like, when I got my manager, who now is, famous for being Viola Davis's manager, but she saw me in a play. She had another client in it. I was massively pregnant. I was a Spitfire. It was George Washington Slept Here. It was like completely retro play.
Uh-huh.
I was pregnant and I was a maid. And I came through the door. I kicked that freaking door open, and like I because that was just my sense of humor, always physical humor, and also like I'm tiny, so we have a lot.
So that's funny.
So that's funny, and I feel like the beautiful thing about Raising Helen was, again, it was a film that Gary Marshall did, and he asked my kids to be in it too, and I said, it's you, Gary Marshall, so I will do it because otherwise they're not coming near this place. And what happened is he saw me chatting with people and saw my personality off camera. So in the scene where I bust up the party, it was completely improvised, and that man gave me the license to be exactly who I am. And I will say, hands down, it's my favorite thing I've ever done in my life because it was all improvised. And talk about bringing in all the influences, because I barely speak Hindi, because I speak some Spanish, because I speak some Chinese. Languages came out of my mouth that like weren't even the same language. And we had to edit it later because like I was, and curses, and I was like, all this stuff came out. But mostly it was the people who suddenly trust you so much and give you, like, it hasn't happened that often, but who give you such license to be exactly who you are. All the characters I've absorbed in my life watching people, I think they're so much a part of me and way more important than I am in my life. And just in terms of their stories are, I can't even explain. That's why this pandemic has been so weird, not to be able to just meet people and talk to them. And in fact, I think some people find my questioning a little bit rude because they feel like, because it's a little I don't know, you can feel a little put upon, that people are just, I think people don't believe that you're honestly curious and honestly care.
I think there's something to that because I find, sometimes when you're talking to people and you're asking a lot of questions and you learn a lot about them and then you leave and realize they didn't ask a single thing about my life. Right. And you wonder, am I just oddly curious? And I never thought of it that I was, making them feel put upon, but I'm actually curious. I want to know, well, how do you think?
I think what's so interesting is on a number of shows I've been on, I always am curious whether the number one, number two, or number three ever ask you any questions about yourself.
For listeners, what Sakina's referring to is on the call sheet, if you are the star of the show, they don't necessarily say the star, but you are listed as number one, number two, and number three. How long are you going to be on set? Who's carrying the show? And so that's what she was referring to with those numbers.
I'm struck by the fact that almost always the number one, two, and three will never ask you any questions about yourself.
Do you think that's because they might then have to also invest in the conversation in that way, and that what has led them to be number one, number two, number three, they have to be a little guarded. They have to protect because perhaps that information has been used against them in some way by the press or someone that they trusted, that then I have found like the people that you so desperately want to know a lot about, because they are in this place of power or position. And you think, how did they get there? Or I'd love to know their background or what makes them work the way they work. I find it similarly that they're a little less interested in investing because they've been burned in the past.
I don't mean so much about asking them questions. I don't think they feel put upon. These people in particular, I think what strikes me is that doesn't answer the question about why they don't ask you questions about your life. You're not waiting for them to ask them. So I'm just saying that there's a reason why they are at that place, because they've been able to just get to that place, which is fantastic. And it helps, like, it's great because they are oftentimes deserving and certainly able to carry a show. But that doesn't answer my question about why those people don't ask questions about you. It's sort of like, how was your weekend? Let me tell you about my weekend.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. That is interesting.
And it doesn't matter. I'm old enough. It doesn't matter. I just have noted it,
Yeah.
Well, because you're curious about human nature.
The other thing I wanted to say also, Stephanie, is in the same way that I have run away, I've spent a lot of time running away and yet always been acting. When I had the kids, like every year I would be doing a bunch of different projects and I wouldn't do the stupid projects. Even way back then, I was like, it's not worth it for me to be away from my children. I want their self-esteem to grow. And how does it grow unless they're becoming masters of something themselves? And then are they becoming masters in your absence? Are they doing all the kung fu and all the ballet and all that stuff without anybody watching them? So like, that's been very much a part of my thinking. The weird thing for me is chug along as I do. And then I'll say this now, but I'm 50 and I get House of Cards, my first television series, right after. And I mean, I was like, is it possible that it's all kind of worked out, that I wanted my children to be old enough that I could be away? I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I so feel like lucky star.
No, it goes back to a deliberate life. You made choices that led you there.
My big takeaway from House of Cards was Sebastian Arcellus, my big keeper.
He's dreamy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's totally dreamy. And he was like, just love.
Well, you're both made of the same ilk. I think you're, what do they call it? Equally yoked.
We're totally not bullshitters, and we care. We honestly care about each other and other people. I think that's definitely true. Yeah.
How did that role come to you? The role of Linda Vasquez in House of Cards?
I auditioned with the fabulous Julie Schubert, but I did see Linda Powell outside of the audition room. Now, if you don't know, she's a fabulous actress. She's also the daughter of Colin Powell, and she grew up in Washington, and she's extremely elegant, smart woman. I saw her outside of that audition, and she had like the look. So I came out of my audition. I saw her in the bathroom. I said, Linda, this is like your part. You go get it. So I got it, but I still felt like she was more right for that part. So I don't know what that was. It wasn't as if I was trying to run away from the possibility. I just didn't think anybody would see me that way. And I think people see me as having much more authority and power than I do. So that's been an interesting thing, just to sort of to acknowledge the fact that for whatever reason, even though I think I'm a goofball, people can see that with me. And then, there was definitely some thought about, why is she cast as a Hispanic? And obviously right now I wouldn't be, nor should I be, but I would have to answer to people, I didn't cast me. Like, David Fincher cast me. So one funny thing was that we were all laughing because Julie Schubert was giving us instruction when we were in the audition room. And she's like, don't wear red, don't use your hands, and don't smile. And then when we were on the first car ride going to maybe from our first table read, we all started talking about our auditions. Sebastian and there were two other people in the car, and everybody had been told not to smile. And then the topper was one person who said, smile, but don't smile.
Do you feel comfortable speaking to the experience of working with David Fincher? What was that like to you? I have Seb's stories and
I do. So basically what would happen is my heart was beating so fast. And what David Fincher does is he does 35 takes, 40 takes, not stopping. So it felt like you were in a marathon. You couldn't go to the bathroom. You couldn't go get water, whatever. You just have to keep on rolling. And I think I asked like the costumer to have like a snack in her bag for me because I felt like we couldn't leave. And then what David Fincher does is he comes up to you and talks in your ear. And it felt like, I had no idea what he was saying to me. I could not. And I was like, am I so nervous that it's not going in my ear. I'm not translating it. And I think he's actually just talking rubbish. I think he's actually just talking to you so that you stop being forced and stop being, in a weird way, I think he's trying to do something.
Get you out of your head.
Get you out of your head.
It's like a strange reset. So if I say, Shamanaba, if you're going to need what you're going to need, then you're focused on what that noise was. And then you do the next take and somehow you're in a different realm because it freed you of your sort of predisposition to do the same thing. I think that's what his
goal was. I think.
Interesting.
But I will also say that Fincher directed you in a way where, like, I remember this scene distinctly. Kevin is in there and he is profoundly distressed. And Fincher had Kevin stand up and then like look down. Basically, he counted it out and then look back up. And then I thought, okay, what the heck was like that weird thing? That was not real acting. It wasn't natural or anything. And cut to when it finally comes out, I realized, he had him look down. And in that time, he filled it up. That empty space was basically all the machinations of everything that he's going to think he's going to be doing that in this to get where he wants to go, just by simply looking down. He had me look down at some point and look away and all that sort of like robot-y thing, but it worked. It always worked.
Because he knew how to craft it. He may not say, this is the motivation as an actor.
He didn't care about that. He's like, look down.
Look down. And then he knew what to fill it. My story with House of Cards, which makes me laugh, but it so speaks to who I am and the practicality with which I have these conversations with Sebastian. So Sebastian says, I actually want to audition for this thing. And right now, at this point in our lives, we're living in Harlem. I'm doing 8 shows a week. He's doing 8 shows a week. And in comes this idea that he wants to do this computer show that films in Baltimore, Maryland, but it's got Kevin Spacey attached. And that name, the connotation with that name meant something different, a decade ago. And David Fincher is directing and it's going straight to Netflix, of which I was like, Netflix, honey, is this worth it? I mean, we're going to be apart for something that's going to be on a computer. I mean, who's even going to watch TV on a desktop computer? What are you doing? It's like, well, let me just try. Then he gets the part. And then I'm the old wet rag that's like, okay, let's do the pros and cons list because I just don't know where this show is going. We're talking about House of Cards, which was like the pioneer show for all streaming enterprises. And I'm sitting there talking about the practicality and what does the money look like and how long are you going to be gone? And I'm not an easy woman to love or someone you want to go to for counsel in your business affairs. Let me just tell you that much. Yeah. Do you use your mama lens, your mama point of view with most everything that you approach as an actor? Do you feel like
I think as in life, I do.
Yeah.
In everything.
In everything.
I think I do. And I do end up being the one who's like, on a set who like have the dinners and whatever. I just want everybody to feel like a family and it all to be like, we're all here trying to do our best together. But I also think that I often find that I'm doing roles now where I'm not interested unless it makes sense to me. And it often makes sense to me if I can even sort of force myself to see it through a mother or mama bear or protector lens. Interestingly, my kids, and I don't mean this in a negative way at all, have never been particularly interested in my acting career. They're not performers at all. So it's a very separate thing, my life as a performer and my life as their mother. And even Frank, of course, sees everything and watches everything, but they don't necessarily. And I don't ask them to because I don't want them to be like my creative. You need to applaud what I do. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. I definitely see other actors whose kids are much more engaged, and maybe they're engaged because they are interested in acting. But I think the most engaged they were with was the first 2 seasons of House of Cards, where they actually were interested in the show and learning about politics. I have to say, this idea of this different type of parenting than we were clearly raised with. And I sometimes think that my children have been raised with the flip side of it, and that causes its own sort of problems. Like, you can do anything. We support everything you do is amazing. You are so talented. And I sometimes think that and also having been in a marriage for 30 years, like, they're sort of high standards in a way that I not that it's troubling. It's good that they are confident and believe that they can do stuff. But I think about it sometimes, I said, because it certainly left me with a rich life and a lot to grapple with, which made me who I am, right?
Yes.
So not as if the struggle is necessary, but I do see that they look at me like, yeah, but you like everything I do. I was like, oh my God, can you hear? I said, and I don't, but I support you in everything that you do.
There
and
it is.
I do know
That's
you
right.
are so talented.
I want to go back to, because I was just recently told about now being a mom and raising Vivian and how to encourage her without, making her think, because she's an only child, that the entire world revolves around her.
Challenge.
And
right.
so I was asking for a little bit of help to find the right words in doing that. And I said, she'll come to me with these huge pieces of art, and I don't care if it's one line or a piece of mud. I go, oh, look at you. Look at the brilliance. Look at the texture. And they said, okay, that's loving. Of course, a mother's going to say that. Now, how you can affirm her, continue the growth, is by saying, now you have a little empty corner here that's just speaking for you to add your art in this way. Or, you chose yellow. What would happen if you added a little orange to that? So it's constantly saying, I see what you're doing. I love what you're doing. Now, let's just expand a little more. Same things with if they're performing or doing sports. I'm like, yes, you were awesome. You were awesome. And instead of always affirming, like, you're the best one on stage, or look how you shine. It's more like, man, as a parent, to see the joy you feel when you're doing that is the greatest gift for me. Right. I'm trying to use those words.
I'm trying to think back on the drawings and stuff that my kids did. I think I remember asking them to tell me about it. Like, tell me about, and I tried to stop saying amazing, I love, I would usually say I love it. And then I was like, this is so, what's happening here? Or, you know what I mean? So I felt like then they are, obviously you don't want to be asked all the time, like, and tell me about it. You're like, it's a fucking dot. It's a dot. It's a dot. Okay, that's it. I had a fun time doing it, but now it's over, right?
Don't wreck it.
And then they don't
Let's not analyze everything.
They don't speak.
They don't
just
speak
meow.
for 2 years.
Exactly.
Right.
So you don't want that. But it's an interesting thing. There's definitely the overpraising. This is what my mother said years ago. She's a perfectionist and very type A. And I was talking to her about a nutcracker I'd seen in my town, and I just wept through the whole thing. It was just a town nearby, young people dancing. And then I said I took Guppy, and she really had enjoyed it. And she said, but you must take her to the nutcracker in New York City. And I said, yeah, whatever. I've seen it. It's magical. But sometimes I feel like there's no life in there. And these ones outside are just kind of they fill me with joy. And she said, but where will she learn standards? So there's that I want so far away from my children, because she grew up with that. Like, there was a standard. Mm-hmm. And there's something beautiful about knowing that you can you can always get better, and it's a good feeling. You can always do something in a different way that gives you a different feeling. But this idea of there being a standard, and if you don't meet that standard, then everything else is shit.
Well, I think when you say that, you're signaling that perfection is the goal. Exactly. And perfection is not the goal. Joy is the goal.
I totally agree. But I would say I have many friends, maybe they're divas at the opera. Maybe they're, where they say they're trying to say, just be joyous, just love what you do. And yet they're practicing 17 hours and then, then it's hard to translate that as a kid. Because there's when they say, I didn't feel good about that, or whatever, I don't know. It's like, it's a complicated thing, I think.
And I think it's a very individual thing too. Some children's constitution can take a little more constructive criticisms than others. It's about building trust. If you're not really honest with your kid about certain things at a certain age, the feedback feels hollow.
Yeah.
If everything's important, then nothing's important. And I think if you are honest in a very gentle way, you build trust so that when you do say, that really was great, they believe you.
You spoke about working with your father, but you also did a movie with your mom. Is that correct?
Yes, I did two.
Two movies.
Yeah, I did one that just had an anniversary recently. It was Chutney Popcorn, a Indian lesbian film with Jill Hennessy, and it was fantastic. It's always been one of my favorite films. An NYU filmmaker who now is hot shit in Hollywood. I'm so happy to hear. She did a film hers last year, or last semester, a full feature, her last semester of graduate school. And it's like been one of the most important films in the gay and lesbian Asian network for so long. I loved it. So she played my mother in that one. That was the first time, and that was a bit of a shock. It was just like, your mother's on set, and she's saying, wait, what is that? Or like, that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I said, that's not so helpful. How about you don't say that before I shoot? But she was fantastic in it. And then the next time we did a Merchant Ivy film, the one which we put off because I thought, should we put it off? I'll just see what happens. I'll get pregnant. And I ended up doing it right after I had a baby. So it got put off that long. And that was actually a much better experience because it was, it's fun working with a really good actor, and we had fun. We didn't play mother and daughter in that one. So
I love that you champion these young filmmakers, that are hitting heights. What is your opinion now with that? So many young artists can create their own content, and then they put it on YouTube, or they can put it on. You know what?
For years, I've been saying to the young artists who ask me anything, the Indian ones in particular, I said, just create your own work, create your own work, create your own work. I mean, obviously, I got that first show at the Public Theater because we knew Wally. I mean, I auditioned for it because of that, but I never, I got my agent myself. I didn't, even though my mother was in acting, she didn't have any
connections. Never your end.
So not in this country. And certainly my father didn't. So I felt like I had nobody telling me, nobody guiding me, as of course, all you guys who didn't have people in the arts had nobody guiding you. But so I am so happy to help these young actors. And I say, just write your own stuff. And a lot of them have come back to me and said, do you remember you were the one who told me? I was like, yeah, Mr. Hotshot on 2 shows, totally. I love it. But I will say there's also something to this generation, and my kids too, especially my daughter, who have no tolerance for not getting what they think is right and what they think they deserve. So there's a whole other aspect to it, where I feel like not as if they don't deserve it, but they expect it.
An entitlement? Would that be the right word?
Yes, I would say for the annoying ones, it's entitlement. But for the other ones, it's more so I should be able to get a series. So for me, I never dreamt that big in a way. And I marvel at them. And I look at my parents, they all dreamt big. How else do you become? I think both my parents are commander of the frickin' British Empire. The Queen gave them a thing, because they just had that. And I never needed that, never wanted it. Particularly, I'm very grateful for the career I've had. It's interesting to me just to have this moment, both with the awareness of Black Lives Matter and all this, is that I think I went from public school in Greenwich Village, where it was just very multicultural, and to a private school in 10th grade. Talk about crossroads. And I got put into this all white environment, and I got put into a world that was, moneyed and all this stuff. We didn't have money. We rented our apartment. I slept in one bedroom with my three of us in one room. We just didn't have money. And I think that my best friend from then, when I was 10, said, in the last couple of years, I had no idea you were going through what you were going through at that time, being the brown girl at that school. And I had no idea people said these things to you. And it's so the conversation is so much more open about what everybody, and of course, part of my show that I've written is also about the gradations of color and how that affected the brownest person in my household. It went out into the world and experienced the world one way, and the world treated him one way. And then as we got lighter and lighter and lighter, the world just treated us differently, right? So this moment in time, as the conversation is out there and people are listening for the first time, I think it's going to just help artists. It's going to help people really be themselves. I think
Agreed.
It's going to help. So for brown people, for Asian people, for Black people, I think it's a profound moment right now. And I don't feel like we'll go back. I think it's just opening up the little Band-Aid for my best friend to say, I never knew that there was that wound there. And then the racial aspect of things being expressed and there being a initiative to listen. I think it's really going to help all of us in the world right now. And I just, that's very promising. Feels like a very promising moment for me.
Well, and it feels like you are taking part in that expansion and inclusivity, because you said if Linda Vasquez were to pass, your email right now and there was a breakdown for that, you would absolutely say, I'm, with all due respect, this is not something that I would audition for. That really struck me when you said that.
Yeah, because there's just so many talented people out there who can do it.
And now it's time for the 5 questions.
What would you tell your late teen or 20-year-old self if you could go back and speak to her?
Get a handle on the facial hair.
As an Italian with a unibrow and a goatee, I'm with you. I support that.
Okay. Are you a bleach? Are you a wax? Or are you a pluck type of
a laser?
Well, back then, there's too much to laser, Mama. No, too much to laser. No, but I didn't do it. That was my problem. So when I finally started doing it, I was a waxer and a threader. Oh. Now I'm these like Japanese microbladey things.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
I feel you on that one.
You get a handle on the facial hair.
Okay. If you could have any talent or ability, what would it be?
Singing. Ladies. Mm-hmm.
Would you tell us something surprising about you that very few people know?
Well, okay. There's one which is so I shared it recently because somebody asked me to do one of those 24-hour plays.
Yes.
And they asked me to do it, and they ask you what's a special skill. And I actually incorporated it in my little play that I did, the monologue, whatever. And it's just that I can put my entire fist in my mouth.
That's good.
Yeah, we're not going to ask you to demonstrate.
No, I cannot. And I have a big mouth and I cannot.
Maybe you have a big hand too.
Maybe I do. Okay.
Do you have any good luck charm or ritual that you do before something important?
Yeah. I mean, I think the only thing I sort of do, maybe it's even unconsciously, is just to say how lucky I am and how blessed I am. I think maybe I do that.
All right. Last question. If you were a nail polish color, what color would that be? And what would the cheeky little name of the polish be? If you could see the serious look on her face. There's going to be like a dissertation on the nail polish color.
Mm-hmm. So this problem, here's the problem. That
too many colors.
I have to think about what color I would want on me, or no, literally just because that's
like your personality.
Personality, yeah. Yeah.
Perhaps the cheeky name would be Peach Fuzz.
Oh, baby, it's not Peach Fuzz. It's fucking Forest, okay?
Tundra.
Whiskers? Whiskers?
No. I mean, I guess it's not quite it, but Spunky Sass.
Yes. And what's the color? What's the color?
And the color is kind of turquoisey.
Oh, I would not have guessed that.
Not that I want to wear it, but I'm just saying other people can wear it and think of me.
Nice.
I love it.
It really put the pressure on you on that one.
Yeah, it was really, I mean, I'm curious what other people have said now.
It speaks a lot. I'm prickly pear.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah, because I'm a little prickly on the outside, but then I'm so sweet and sort of delicious and surprising when you get past the little gink, gink, gink.
But then what color was that? Like
it was color? It was like a little green. Didn't I say it was like a slightish green
like a
hue?
Greeny.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And you, Marilee?
I was tie-dye Earth Mama.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I like all colors, and I would just do like a tie-dye nail polish if that was possible.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
People are surprised by prickly pear. Maybe I'm wrong. Is that wrong? Have I classified myself into a nail color that doesn't accurately portray me?
Here's the thing. You're allowed to change your nail color.
But yes, you are.
Non-acetone
the other
people
thing
use
is
non-acetone.
Is that you can have a nail color that's aspirational, or rather your best self, or you can have a nail color that is the kind you can't get off.
That's true.
So I think you kind of have to phrase it in a way you'd love to be this color. You know what I mean? So you went for the negative rather than the positive.
See, and it's funny because I don't look at it as a negative. I think it's kind of great, like a Frances McDormand type thing. And that is the person who is kind of like don't mess with me. It's going to take a little effort but maybe that's what I'm projecting as to who I would like to be.
That's an interesting question.
Like a B. Arthur.
Oh, B. Arthur. But that's more sass.
She's total sass.
She's too. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for asking me to join.
And now here's what struck a chord with us. Sakina.
Well, you wrote Figuring Out the Fear. And I never looked at her ever as a fearful person. Ever.
But she talks about it, right?
She sure does.
Yeah.
She sure does. And when somebody recognizes that in themselves, then that's kind of always at the base of a lot of inspiration, whether you're holding on to that fear or whether you want to propel yourself outside of that fear. And I just think, we've already said it. She packs such a punch for this little person. But once you hear her life, and once you hear where she comes from and the strength that it takes to go on a plane with your two other sisters, all under the age of 6, and live with your aunt and then travel back, and the forgiveness and the flexibility. And sure, there may be fear there, and I don't want to invalidate what she is recognizing in herself, but my God, this woman has moved forward. She's literally looked at her parents in the face and shared scenes with them. And she's like, well, let's do it. I know most people would probably say, thank you. With all due respect, this just may not be the project for me. Or I don't know if I would be spiritually ready to face a relationship, with my father that really only deems 2 years and sort of lending his physiology to make me, and then that's it.
Yeah.
And then you share work and space and emotions, and that takes a lot of courage and strength. A lot.
And first of all, it just takes courage, strength, and vulnerability to do any kind of acting anyway, but to then do it with the person who has such a trigger for you, that's huge.
I guess you could look at it 2 ways. Is it masochistic, or is it complete and utter courage and bravery? I would choose the latter after speaking with her.
Yeah, totally. I remember hearing this a long, long time ago, and I can't remember where I heard it, but it was fear, FEAR, is just false evidence appearing real. Oh. So fear, there's 2 kinds of fear, right? There's the fear that's, our frontal lobe that's protecting us since the caveman days from the saber-toothed tiger. Right, so we know to be afraid. Right. But then there's the fear that literally we have just created in our own mind to protect ourselves from some emotional pain that we think might be there, that might not even be there, or some situation that we think we should be afraid of. And really, it does hold value in certain places, but if you don't understand the different kinds of fear, you can really get lost in this. It's not even real. It's fake. Not real. It's this illusion that we've created for whatever emotional reason, and we cut ourselves off.
And I bet you a huge percentage of our days and our lives and the choices that we make are based on things that we have been fed that aren't real. It may have happened to that person and it may be their reality. That doesn't mean it's your reality.
Right.
Right.
The other thing that it just made me love her was how deep she went on the nail polish question.
Oh my gosh.
She literally analyzed every aspect of that question.
And she wanted to know what your answer was and then wanted to analyze yours and mine, of which then I, after listening to the conversation, I went, well, maybe she's right. Maybe I'm not that color.
I know. I want to change my answer.
I do need to go the more positive route. Okay, I'm going to reconsider this. It was very, on such a inconsequential, we giggle because we pose this as the last question, but it has brought up a lot of ideas and people's feelings, but none like Sakina. This was really an epic journey with a beginning, middle, and end.
From every angle. It cracked me up. I'll bet she's still home thinking about that question.
So if this episode resonated with you, please follow, subscribe, and share.
You can always find us at stagespodcast.net. We'd like to give a big thank you to our assistant editor and doer of all things technical, Saren Cho. Thank you, Noah Kaiserman and Garrett Healy, for our beautiful original music, Melanie Von Trapp for our Stages Podcast logo, Ben Walding, our sound engineer, and Allison Arns, our PR and social media expert.
And thank you, our cast members, for joining us today. We hope you come back next week.